Okay, so I'm addicted to reading your books now, but I want to give everybody access to as many books as possible. So, last day of COVID, and I thought I'll lock down. I'll start one more. This is 24 hours in ancient Egypt. It goes through a day in the life of people who lived in Egypt, and it does it hour at a time. It starts at 12 a.m. and goes through hour by hour, each to a different person in a different job or field. So it's really interesting. You will have to bear with me on the pronunciations. I did look it up online and I will do my best to say it correctly, but I am dyslexic, so just bear with me. I'll do my best. All right, video one. Okay, it's the 7th hour of the ninth, from midnight to 1 a.m. The midwife delivers a baby. May you die, he who comes out of the dark, who creeps in with his nose behind him, his head averted, so as not to be seen. May he fail at his task. May you die, she who comes out of the dark, who creeps in, her nose behind her, her head averted, so as not to be seen. May she fail at her task. Did you come to kiss this child? I will not let you kiss him. Have you come to silence him? I will not let you silence him. Have you come to harm him? I will not let you harm him. Have you come to take him? I will not let you take him from me. I have provided his protection against you. It's a magic spell for the protection of the baby. Babies can come at any time of the day or night, and has made Merit aware of this at least half a dozen times. Merit's labour pains had started while still daylight, and now, hours into darkness, the moment of delivery is imminent. Weret, her auntie, who is serving the role of a midwife, is here to assist in the process, fervently coaching her patient and reciting incantations, as Merit squats over several bricks in a room barely lit by a trio of oil lamps. Along with her advice and spells, the midwife has brought along a couple of small statuettes, neither of which are, by anybody's standard, particularly attractive. The god Bess is absolutely hideous. Nevertheless, he is there to help, depicted as a short, pudgy, ugly dwarf, his tongue fully exposed and striking an obnoxious pose. He could, it is believed, ward off evil forces during pregnancy and childbirth. The other statuette, the fertility goddess, Hecate, is represented as a frog and has similar powers, and is no doubt happy with the proceedings. She has been prominently displayed in the home ever since Merit intently desired to be pregnant yet again. Hecate's inclusion made a lot of sense. Frogs do produce a great number of eggs and tadpoles, but they don't snore, as Merit's husband Menu is doing in the adjacent room after a hard day's fishing. The rather ugly but strong and fierce god Bess was a favourite as a protector of Egyptian households. Squat, with a mix of human and lion-like features, he was thought to drive out evil spirits. Unlike much Egyptian art, he was often portrayed with a body fully facing forward and a posture that displays his frightening features to full effect. It's not too bad. I've seen worse. The god Bess, a protector of the household. Where it places both of the images in a position overlooking the birth to the entrance there to enhance their influence. Upon discovering that she was pregnant months previously, Merit had been given a necklace by her aunt featuring a string of blue amulets in the shape of Torah. While Bess and Hecate are certainly unattractive, Torah, with her composite features, is uglier still, with the general shape of a standing pregnant hippopotamus with legs of a lion and a crocodilian features along her back. She is perhaps the fiercest of the three protective deities, with the ability, hopefully, of repelling any and all malicious forces. Though repulsive, the trio of deities are comforting to those they watch over. With an outcast of debatable accuracy, and ancient Egyptians had a kind of pregnancy test. Wheat and barley would be placed into a cloth, and the woman suspecting a baby was on the way would urinate on it every day. If the barley sprouted, it would be a boy. If the wheat sprouted, it would be a girl. And if they both appeared, it was positive but undetermined outcome. If nothing sprouted, there was no pregnancy. With years of experience, Weret continues to coach while a head begins to emerge between Merritt's thighs. She knows that there is no guarantee that the child will be born alive, nor that Merritt will ultimately survive the experience. Within minutes, though, an Egyptian baby is born, its cries announcing its entry into the world. It's a boy, and Merritt knows that both Merritt and her husband Manu will be relieved. The couple already have 3 girls. Although helpful with the never-ending daily chores, at some time those daughters will marry and depart to have their own households, leaving even more work for Merritt. But after just a few years, this new boy would be able to learn to fish with his father, which in turn would become his own career and contribute to his family's well-being. Nefer, mutters the baby's exhausted mother. Let's name him Nefer, the good or the beautiful one. Yet again, thinks Werrett, as she passes the baby to its mother. There had already been 2 previous boys given that name, but neither had survived more than a few months. Both were buried under the floor of their house. Perhaps this one would be different, and would live many long and happy years, aided by several loving and helpful children of his own. And maybe those ugly protective gods will work their magic this time. Nefer, the midwife says, it's a wonderful name, but presumptuous. Surely you're not expecting him to be both well-behaved and attractive. Not likely when he smells of fish like his father. At least he won't be a brickmaker, I suppose. The average ancient Egyptian, if they survived birth and childhood, might live to be 30 to 35 years old. There were numerous ways to die, including diseases, accidents during work, or fighting the enemy. Many relatively simple maladies, including numerous infections and illnesses that can be easily treated with modern medicine and vaccinations, could be absolutely fatal. Parasites and eye disease, which could make one's life miserable, were not uncommon, and evidence of various kinds of cancers is now being found in mummies. Baby Nefer is arguably lucky to be born in Kemet. Werrett thinks that with its typical hospitable climate and usual abundance of food, and a culture which provides, at least in theory, a tolerable life in here and now, and the one even better that in the afterlife, as an Egyptian, his culture is superior to those others who lived outside the land, including the Libyans to the west and the Nubians to the south and the Asiatics to the east. Inferior peoples who could only elevate themselves to true humanity by becoming Egyptians themselves. Nefer didn't have a bad deal, all things considered, thinks Werrett. The baby boy will be nursed for a few years by his mother, and perhaps occasionally by a relative or a wet nurse, though Werrett hopes she would be spared that. She is busy enough as it is. There will be a few years of playing and running about with other children, all naked with heads shaved, but for a long lock of hair on one side. But all too soon he'll be segged into his father's profession, doing minor tasks at first, but then growing more adept until able to participate fully. Time will fly quickly, as it seems to do, and there will likely be marriage and children, and the cycle would no doubt continue unabated for eons. Yes, a predictable and often tough life is in store for this little one. Werrett thinks to herself, watching the baby squirm in his mother's arms. She just hopes he survives to live it. The 8th hour of the night, 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. The ruler lies awake. He has trampled the tribesmen under his sandals. The dwellers of the north bow before his power, and all foreign lands fear him. The world is in his hands. Men are terrified of him. The gods are subject to his love, the one appointed by the god Amun himself. He has seized the whole of the Black Land, Upper and Lower Egypt being subject to his plans. The great Sphinx stele of Amenhotep II. Amenhotep lies on his back on his ornate bed, his head supported by a rest of solid ebony, his eyes wide open, staring upward in a fit of tortuous insomnia, his body aching from the day's physical activities. Amenhotep, or Akhper, as he was also known, holds the most vital and onerous job ever, maintaining order in the universe. It's called Ma'at, a harmonious balance of truth and stability, and to prevent the world from falling into chaos. And as a divine ruler, Amenhotep is expected to keep the forces of evil at bay and please the numerous capricious Egyptian gods who could readily turn on his people at any time. Being ruler of Egypt has its benefits, of course. Considered to be a living manifestation of the soul of falcon god Horus, he could pretty much enjoy the best of everything and do whatever he pleases, but there is a cost to it. As a god, day after day, he faces the highest of expectations of his people. There are numerous construction projects to accomplish all over the land, many dedicated to himself, all the while finding ways to build, if not maintain, Egypt's considerable wealth, which is not an easy task. After all, he had not only inherited his legendary father's empire, he is also, according to his many grandiose titles that are carved into stone on many monuments, the mighty bull, sharp of horns, powerful of splendour, king of the upper and lower Egypt, lord of the two lands, Horus of gold, son of Re, lord of diadems, the strong-armed one, likeness of Re, son of Ammon, and lord of all foreign lands. He is the commander of Egypt's military forces and the highest priest of all the gods. Daunting responsibilities indeed. Very. The names of Akhempurer and Amenhotep II, written in hieroglyphs and encircled in cartouches. The rulers of Egypt had several names and titles, and there were two names in particular by which they were generally known, inscribed with elongated ovals that Egyptologists called cartouches. One is the birth name and the other is a name adopted upon becoming ruler. These two names conveniently serve modern scholars, given that there were, for example, 4 rulers named Amenhotep and 11 named Ramesses. The second name allows them to be distinguished one from another. Modern scholars tend to identify them with a number, for example, Thutmose III and Amenhotep II. Amenhotep is the 7th king in his family's line of rulers, a dynasty that began with the ouster of the foreigners, known as the Hyksos, several generations previously from the lands to the east. The Hyksos had ruled Egypt for about 100 years until defeated by the humiliated Egyptians and chased from the land. The subsequent rulers of Egypt were not content to merely defend their borders, but aggressively conducted campaigns to subjugate or at least terrify their potential enemies on all sides. As a bonus to dominating foreigners, the fruits of the empire building have become obvious. Lots of booty, including livestock, captives and gold. And increasingly it is becoming clear that there are powers in the east who are themselves growing in strength and who must be checked. What's happened? Sorry. Amenhotep's father, Thutmose, set a high standard for any ruler. His expertise in plundering and subjugation are hard to match and even harder to maintain. Thutmose, the third ruler bearing that name in the present dynasty, had brought the Egyptian army far to the east, all the way to the distant Euphrates River, with a lot of battles along the way. His long career included 17 foreign military campaigns, the details of which are proudly inscribed in the Theba temple. Thutmose had greatly expanded. The Thutmose's rise to the throne had been curious indeed. Amenhotep's father, the second Thutmose, had died after only about a dozen years of reign. The heir, apparently being a mere child while still technically the ruler, the inherited role of the third Thutmose had been essentially usurped by his stepmother, Hatshepsut, who, after a few years of acting behind the scenes, came out and declared herself ruler. Despite this unprecedented situation of a woman ruling Egypt, her reign was quite successful, with expeditions to exotic lands to the south and incredible building projects. With her death, the third Thutmose was more than ready to rule on his own, and did so for over 30 years. Later in his reign, though he initiated an active campaign to erase the memory of Hatshepsut, defacing her name and likeness from her monuments and demolishing her statues. There had been rumours that this was payback for his being kept in the background, as he had been technically the king during her entire reign. More likely it was to expunge the precedence of a woman serving as a ruler of Kemet. Egypt is a land of long-standing traditions, and the order is not to be upset. Not surprising, Amenhotep's father hadn't talked much about Hatshepsut while he groomed his oldest son, Amenemhat, to succeed him. Sadly, the prince died, and Amenhotep was next in line. Thutmose, though, was able to mentor the future ruler, as two served as co-regents for the couple of years before Thutmose's own death. A death that transformed him into Osiris, the ruler of the underworld of the dead. Amenhotep in turn became the living manifestation of Horus, the son of Osiris. The life of Thutmose III was dynamic like few others, and Amenhotep feels a nagging obligation to at least give the impression of approaching his achievements. He would need to live long and have much greater ambitions to come even close to matching the accomplishments of his father. The people expected success from their ruler, a demonstration of might that gives them confidence in their world. Fortunately, Amenhotep is a superb athlete, and while some might cynically consider his claims exaggerated, there is seemingly nothing beyond the abilities of their god king. Amenhotep rubs his aching shoulder. Maintaining a superhuman reputation takes a physical toll, and he occasionally questions his own divinity. Why should a god suffer such pains? The Egyptians see him as a great horseman, charioteer, rowing champion, runner and archer. They believe that he is capable of shooting arrows from a racing chariot through several thick ingots of copper, a feat recorded for the ages on Thebes temple wall, surrounded by congratulating attendants. It's easy for Amenhotep to believe some of the grandiose hype. Still, Amenhotep deeply feels the obligation to at least appear as powerful as his ingratiating titles proclaim him to be. Since becoming ruler 12 years previously, he has not only conducted 3 foreign campaigns. His first initiated almost immediately after assuming the throne. With the news of Thutmose's death reaching the lands he had conquered, some of those under Egypt's dominance saw it was an opportunity to revolt, and their suppression was absolutely necessary in order to maintain and hopefully expand Egypt's hard-won empire. It was important to let the good god of strong of might, who is successful in the presence of his army, whose arrows never fail. When he shoots ingots of copper, he splits them like the stems of papyrus, the strong arm of whose like has never existed. The large copper slab at which his majesty shot was 3 fingers thick. The great of strength pierced it with his many arrows, all penetrating 3 palms and emerging behind the slab. It was in the presence of the entire land that his majesty performed this. This text accompanying a depiction of Amenhotep II shooting arrows at a target from a speeding chariot. From the 3rd pylon on the Karnak temple, Thebes. The foreign lands know that Egypt is still in control. Troublemakers need to be suppressed, and those who remain loyal are rewarded. After that first campaign came 2 more in years 7 and 9 of his reign. The fear of Kemet had once again been instilled in those who might consider rebellion. Dozens of cities and towns in Canaan and Syria had been raided and or punished. The booty acquired was truly impressive. Having a reputation as being particularly cruel certainly helped. As the supreme military commander, Amenhotep was on site and directly involved, and his prowess on the battlefield, like his athletic achievements, were remarkable, at least as officially reported. His Majesty arrived at Memphis with a happy heart and his mighty bull. The amount of his booty, 550 warriors of the Hurarian elite, 240 of their wives, 640 Canaanites, 232 children of the chieftains, 323 daughters of the chieftains, 270 concubines of the chieftains, of which the foreign lands, along with their adornments of silver and gold on their arms. Total 2,214 captives, 820 horses, 730 chariots, including all their weapons of war. The Memphis Stela of Amenhotep II, providing a record of the second foreign campaign. The tired king's mind continues to race. Another typically big day lies ahead. There would be meetings with his right-hand man, the vizier Amenhotep, who would report to him all of the concern throughout the land of Egypt and beyond. There are building projects up and down the Nile, including the building of a new temples and the maintenance of others. And there is the matter of planning for his own death, which, with the construction of a tomb and the royal cemetery, and a memorial temple where he will be worshipped for eons. This viceroy of Nubia, Usersatet, would be presenting plans and seeking authorization for various projects under the jurisdiction. And as is becoming routine, there would be a parade of visiting missionaries bringing tribute who would present wonderfully valuable and interesting things from far off lands. He especially likes... Why is it not focusing? It's unusual. Sorry. Oh, there we go. Wonderfully valuable and interesting things for far off lands. He especially likes these occasions and looks forward to the bowing and scraping of colourfully dressed foreigners, a sure sign of his nation's continuing dominance. The profile of Amenhotep II, as depicted on the temple wall at Karnak. There's that sideways stance that the god didn't have. Later he would dine with his wife, Tia, and enjoy the company of his several children. The food would be the best, as usual. It would be as would be the wine. No desire would be withheld from the powerful of splendours. Regular introspection is good, Amenhotep concludes, although doing so at such hours of the night is not preferred. Although he respects to some extent the simplicity of the lives of the hard-working average Egyptians who toil daily in their repetitive tasks, he certainly revels in the fact that while alive he is one of a kind. Yes, ultimately it's good to be king. After hours of restlessness, the ruler of the Upper and Lower Egypt finally drifts off, but not for long. Loud screeching accompanied by barking and the scuffle of several feet across the floor of the sleeping chamber put an end to that. The startling crash that follows alerts a couple of guards who pull back the chamber's curtains and rush in with a couple of lit lamps. What was once a beautifully crafted calcite standing vase is now in pieces. Apparently one of Amenhotep's defanged pet baboons, which are occasionally allowed to roam the palace, is being chased by one of his hunting dogs. Both of the guards were appalled and apologetic, and when they attempted to clean up the mess, the king intervenes. Just leave it until after I get up tomorrow. I really need my sleep. The guards backed off, while more screeching and the breaking of more things can be heard in the background. Some of my people make bricks all day and probably sleep better, thinks Amenhotep, and there are probably few with misbehaving monkeys tormenting them at a late hour. But such is life of the strong bull. Okay, well that was interesting. Alright, and next we will do the 9th hour and the 10th hour of the night. Bye.